Hi, welcome back. This is Professor Ridge, and today's lesson is on the review chapter section 4, factoring. And again, this is review, so I'm going to just kind of lightly cover all the topics. Alright, so let's first start out with factoring out the largest or the greatest common factor. So what you do is you look at each term and ask yourself, what's the largest factor that divides in each of the terms. So in this case it'd be 6. So I look at the numbers first, 12, 6, and 18. The GCF would be 6. And then I look at the letters. There's nothing in common to all three terms, so we just take 6. And then you're going to divide each term by 6, by whatever the GCF is. Okay, so we're going to end up with, so normally you don't show this step, right? This is the thought process. So you write the 6, and then 12x squared divided by 6 is 2x squared. 6x divided by 6 is x. 18 divided by 6 is 3. Okay, so that's factoring GCF. Let's try one more. Alright, so we look 15, 12, 9, 21. So the GCF for that would be 3. And then they all have an x. And the lowest power, so the GCF would be the lowest power that they're all in common, so that'd be x squared. And they all have a y. And the lowest power would be y the first. So we're going to divide out 3x squared y from each term. So we're going to get 5, 15 divided by 3 is 5, x cubed divided by x squared is x, and then we take the y. 12 divided by 3 is 4, then we get x squared y. 9 divided by 3 is 3, x squared divided by x squared, so those are gone, take out a y, so we get y squared. Negative 21 divided by 3 is it's negative 7. And then x to the 5th divided by x squared, x cubed, y to the 3rd. Alright, now let's try factor by grouping to remember that. Okay, so factor by grouping, if you have 4 or more terms, generally it's just four terms, 4 or more terms. We'll just say 4 terms. You split it up into 2 groups of 2. Sometimes you can do a group of 3 and a group of 1 and 3. Okay, but traditionally you start out with 2 and 2 and see what happens, and you ask yourself what comes out of the first group, and you ignore the second group. So out of x cubed and 3x squared, x squared's the GCF. So you divide out x squared, you're left with x plus 3. Now you look at the second group, and you see that we got 6 and 18. 6 comes out of both of those. And then we get 6x divided by 6 is x, 18 divided by 6 is 3. Now, the way it's written, you got to view this as 1 term, 2 terms. And if you notice, the x plus 3 in the parentheses matches exactly. So whatever the number that is, they're the same number. So it's basically, the way I do it in class is, if I had x squared times a plus 6 times a, and I asked you to factor it, most people have no trouble saying, hey, that's a times x squared plus 6, because you factor out that a, comes out to the front, and then you're left over with the x squared plus 6 left over. Okay? Well, this is no different. Now, instead of an a, it's that parenthesis x plus 3, and then what's left over when you factor that out is the x squared plus 6. So there you go. Same idea. Alright, let's try one more. How about this one? 5 a cubed minus 10a squared plus 25a minus 50. Now, always remember the first step is to see if there's anything common, any GCS over all the terms. So 5 comes out of all of them, divides out of all of them. So divide all 4 terms by 5, and we're left with a cubed minus 2a squared plus 5a minus 10. Now since it's 4 terms, I'm going to split it in my 2 groups of 2. Leave that 5 kind of floating out in front. A squared comes out of the first group, and we're left with a minus 2. 5 comes out of the second group, we're left with a minus 2. And again, the parentheses match exactly, so you factor out that parenthesis, a minus 2, and then you're left with the a squared plus 5. Okay, so there's your answer. Alright, now let's move on to reviewing factor trinomials. Okay, so to factor this trinomial, I want you to start with the C term. Factors of C, this subtract to 5. So we want factors of C, factors of 24 that subtract to 5. So I'm going to go through my list of 24. 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, 5 doesn't work, 6 is right on my list, so I'm done. So the facts of 24 that subtract to 5 are 3 and 8. So to get the x squared, it's x times x. To get 24, it's 3 and 8, or 8 and 3, doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter where you put the 8 and the 3, as long as the next step is what matters. The bigger one, this is the bigger factor, between 8 and 3, gets the middle sign, sign of B. So that's next. Then if C, since this is negative 4, negative 24, I mean, that tells me that to get a product of negative 24, I need a positive times a negative. So I got negative 8, so that tells me that 3 has to be positive. And then you can check and see that negative 8 plus 3 gets you the negative 5. Negative 8 times positive 3 gets you the negative 24. Alright, so that's kind of it in a nutshell. Let's do one more, just to refresh our memories here. So how about x squared plus 17x minus 60. So again, the way I do it, factors of 60 that subtract to 17. Normally I don't write this down. I just say what I just did. Factors of 60 that subtracts to 17. So 60, 1 and 60. So if it's the first thing that pops in my head, I don't write this down, but this is the system I used. I kind of talked about it in class. 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 12. You can stop when you find it, but I'm just going to show you. 6 and 10, 7 doesn't work, 8 doesn't work, 9 doesn't work, 10's there. So I'm done. So we get the x squared, x times x, 3 and 20. This is the bigger factor, so it gets the sign of B. Which is the middle term, which is positive. And then to get a negative 60, the signs are opposite. Let's do one with a plus there. I'm going to use 60 again. Make it plus 60 since I got all the factors over there. Let's do 32. So I want factors of 60 that add to 32. factors of 60 that add to 32. Well, that's going to be 2 and 30. That adds to 32. 30 is the bigger factor. It gets the middle sign. And to get plus 60, when you multiply, then I need the signs to be the same as each other. So they're going to be the same as b. So negative times a negative gives me positive 60. Okay? Alright, now on to what if there's a number in front. So I'm going to talk about the ridge method. Okay, so let me show you how I do this, and then I'll write it up. So let's say I had 4x squared minus 25x minus 21. So the ridge method is, what I do is I take the same thought process, but I take the a times c. That sign still tells me add or subtract to b. So I want factors. So we want factors of 4 times 21, which is 84, that subtract 225. And so I go through my list of 84. So let's see, 1 and 84, 2 and 42, 3 and, so 3 and 28 is it, and then I'm not going to do the rest. Okay, so once I find it, now here's where the ridge method comes. This is what's unique to the way I've been teaching it for 20 years. Notice it's 4x, 4x, and then 4x times 4x is 16x squared, so that's not right. So the way I fix it is I divide it by 4, and that fixes it. And then 3 times 28, again, is not 21. It's 84, but then 84 divided by the 4 is 21. So again, the dividing by 4 fixes my problem. So I created a little bit different problem so I can think of it just like the if it was a 1 in front, and then modify the problem a little bit, and now I can do the same thought process. Okay, the bigger number is 28, gets sign of b, and then signs are different. To get negative 21, these two signs have to be opposites of each other. Now what I got to do is, now I got to reduce this. So what I do is look at 4x plus 3. Does anything factor out of those two terms? And the answer is no, so you leave it alone. Look at the next parenthesis, 4x minus 28, factor out the 4, and then you get x minus 7. And then the 4 that came out of the second parenthesis would cancel the 4 in the bottom, and then I get 4x plus 3 times x minus 7. And that's my answer. And of course you can check it. 4x plus 3 times x minus 7. 4x times x is 4x squared. 4x times negative 7 is negative 28x. 3 times x. 3 times negative 7. Combine like terms. 4x squared minus 25x minus 21. There you go. Alright. So that's the ridge method. Let me do a couple more ridge method ones just to make sure you got it. And if you, I have it written out in detail and some notes. If you would like that copy of that, just email me and I'll get it to you. Alright, so I'm going to take a times c. 6 times 20 is 120. Factors of 120 that subtract to negative 7, or to 7. Again, I don't worry about the signs yet. So we want factors of 120 that subtract 2, 7. So I go through a list of 120. So 1 and 120, 2 and 60, 3 and 40, 4 and 30, 5 and 24, 6 and 20, 7 doesn't work, 8 and, you know, if you can't do these in your head, just get out a calculator. 120 divided by 8, and I don't have a calculator handy right here, so okay, that's 15. Otherwise I would have used it. 6x. Again, so whatever that a is, 6 times 6 divided by 6, and that fixes my problem, right? 6 times 6, 36, but then divided by 6 we get 6. We got 8 and 15. Put in my signs. Bigger one gets the middle sign, which is -7, so I need a -15. To get a -20, these signs have to be opposites. Now again, 8 times 15, -15 is -120, but I'm going to divide it by the 6. So that fixes it. Okay, so now what I got to do, what divides out of 6 and 8? What factors out of 6 and 8? Well, 2. So we got 3x plus 4. And what factors out of the 6 and the 15? Let's see, 3. So we get 2x minus 5. And then notice the 2 that came out of the first parenthesis, 3, 2 times 3 is 6, cancels the 6 on the bottom. And we get 3x plus 4, 2x minus 5. Alright, let's do one more. How about 20w squared minus 23w plus 6. So again, I'm going to go factors of 120 that add to 23, and I got my list up there. Oh, I'm missing 9, doesn't work. 10 and 12. Okay, so we're adding to 23. Oh, it's 8 and 15 again. So now I'm going to do 20w, 20w, over 20. We got 8 and 15 again. The bigger one, 15, gets sign of the middle term, so negative. And then to get the positive 6, these signs have to be the same, so they're both negative. All right, now I got to reduce, so factor out of the first parenthesis, we can take a 4 out. We get 5w minus 2. Second parenthesis, we can take a 5 out. We get 4w minus 3. And the 4 and 5 that came out make 20, cancels the 20 on the bottom. So we get 5w minus 2, 4w minus 3. And again, I can check that and you'll see that it works. The next thing is difference of squares. It's my favorite one. Makes it so easy. So if you have two squares and you're subtracting, that's the difference. Difference of two squares. Then it's just a plus b, a minus b, because that middle term cancels out. And so it's super easy. So factor x to the 4th minus, or x squared minus 9. So that's going to be square root the first, square root the second, and then it'll be plus minus. If I want to do 9x squared minus, let's see, 49y squared. Well, they're both squares, so that's 3x plus square root 49y squared is 7y, and then same numbers, but minus. Okay. And of course, always factor completely. So if you got something like x to the fourth minus, 81, well, that's x squared plus 9, x squared minus 9. Well, this one factors again, so you get x squared plus 9, x plus 3, x minus 3. So always, check, make sure you factor completely. And the next special one is perfect square trinomials. A squared plus 2ab plus b squared. And if the middle term's minus, it's still a perfect square. We're going to get a plus b squared, or a minus b squared. Now the key to this is, well, you have to check this middle term that it fits. It's twice ab. So if I ask you to factor, say, 9x squared plus, I'm going to leave this blank for a second, plus, let's get a perfect square, say 25. Okay, so it kind of fits the pattern. We got a perfect square here, a perfect square at the end. And for this to work, the middle term has to be 2ab, which is going to be 2 times, a would be 3x, b would be 5. Has to be, so that's what? 30x. So if this middle term is 30x, then you're done. If it's not 30x, you scratch it out, and you have to do the ridge method, okay? So that's what, so your key is, if that's a perfect square, that's perfect square, square root of, and then check 2 times 3x times 5. If that middle term that I didn't write down is 30x, then you're done, you go to the next problem. If it's not, you erase it, erase your answer here, scratch it out, erase it, and then try the ridge method, okay? So that's the key to using that one. So if I have, say, 25a squared plus, say, 4, so this can be 5a plus 2 squared, 2 times 5a times 2 equals 28. So this needs to be 28. It is. So I'm done. I'm going to go to the next problem. Okay? So you have to check that. Alright, now factoring difference of cubes and sum of cubes. You just have to memorize the formula. So you recognize they're both cubes. So the way I think of it is I cube root both of the terms. So you're going to get a plus b. And then I look at this now, square it. So that's a squared. And then I multiply these two together. So that's AB. And then I square the last term. And then the way the signs go, this term is the same as the problem. So it's plus, that's plus. This is always opposite. And then this one is always positive. So it's the same, opposite, always positive. Okay? So this is for the signs. Same as the problem, opposite, always positive. That's for the last one. Always positive for the last one. Okay, so but the number's the same. So this would be A, B. You square the first term, multiply them together, square the second term. And then the signs, same as the problem. opposite, always positive. Okay? So let's try one. Factor, say, 8x cubed minus 27. So I'm going to cube root both of them. 2x, 3. Now I'm going to look just at the 2x, square it. 2x times 2x, 4x squared. Multiply them together. 2x times 3 is 6x. And then I'm going to square the 3. And then the sign's same as the problem. Opposite, always positive. Okay. Let's do one more for good measure. How about 64 a cubed b to the 6 plus, say, I don't know, 125 x to the 12th. So I'm going to cube root both of them. So that's 4ab squared. So with the exponents, you just divide by 3 plus 5x. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So now I'm going to look just at the parentheses. I'm going to square the first one. So that's 16a squared b to the 4th. Multiply them together. So that's 20a b squared x to the 4th. And then square the last one. Oh, I ran out of room. So 25x to the 8. So sign same as the problem, opposite, always positive. Okay? Alright, so there you go. Alright, so that is a review of all the factoring stuff. So hopefully you're pretty proficient at that. And with that, go to My Math Like, complete your exercise there, and I'll see you next time.